So Democrats complete yet another full cycle of hypocrisy after Senate Democrats vote to block a provision in Trump's big beautiful bill that would prevent 1.4 million illegal immigrants from taking advantage of Medicaid. It always goes like this. It's not happening. It's a Republican conspiracy theory. Okay, it's happening a little bit, but in so few isolated circumstances, you shouldn't be worried about it. Okay, it's happening at a large scale, but it's a good thing. And then finally, we won't vote to stop this thing that we originally said wasn't happening because if we do, then we're bad people. I mean, I thought their talking point was illegals don't receive government welfare. It's impossible for that to happen. But once again, Democrats are publicly and shamefully putting illegal immigrants over American people because in their heart, they truly believe that America exists to provide free housing, free education, free healthcare, and free food to the entire world. Meanwhile, Donald Trump drops an insane stat on how much the United States is spending on translation services. Leave a comment below and take a guess on just how much it is. I'll give you a hint. It is astronomical. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 300,000 subscribers. But before I show you the depressing realization that Democrats don't care about Americans at all, let me show you something lighthearted that will have you rolling in the floor laughing. A bunch of woke activist doctors posted up in the Capitol building protesting Donald Trump's big beautiful bill. And every single person walking past is ignoring them. It is the most pathetic and embarrassing thing you've seen. Take a look.
We are the Doctors Caucus, Democratic Doctors Caucus. We have cared for the sickest patients in our communities. As physicians, we didn't care if someone was a Democrat or a Republican. In fact, that is never an issue that you address. We just care for people. And let me be clear, the big, ugly betrayal bill will hurt people. You cannot cut $1 trillion in healthcare and not devastate our healthcare community.
This highlights one of the main problems with the left. They're so preachy. They're so boring and dull. They're all radical activists who've made political issues their entire personality. The reason they have a messaging issue with average Americans is because they're not regular people. They don't realize real people have actual lives and obligations and personalities. They don't have time to just sit on their moral high horse, cast judgment at everybody else, and actively care about issues that have nothing to do with their lives. Not to mention, no rational person takes Democrats seriously at this point. So when you're walking through the Capitol building and you see this little band of doctors protesting about Trump's bill, you already know it's some nonsense and your brain blocks it out. But I thought that would make you guys laugh. But now let's get into the true nonsense of the day. The Senate not passing a measure that would remove 1.4 million illegals from receiving Medicaid benefits. So I actually learned something looking into this process, and I'll break it down for you guys, and hopefully if you don't already know this stuff, you'll come away taking something new from it. So why Trump's trying to put so much in the big beautiful bill? Because it's a reconciliation bill, and reconciliation bills are about spending and they're about revenue. And you're allowed to pass these bills with a simple majority, not like almost every other form of legislation that goes through the Senate, which can be filibustered into having 60 votes in order to pass. So because Trump knows there's going to be nothing but opposition coming from the Democrats, he's trying to get as much as he can for the Republicans in this bill. Now, as we all know, the bill passed the House and then it goes to the Senate. Well, the Senate's making its revisions and they vote on different measures and amendments. But here's where the secret puppet master comes into play, the Senate parliamentarian. And this person is a nonpartisan, however, appointed by a Democrat since 2012, advisor to the Senate to help them adhere to the Senate rules. And this person is meant in theory to keep both sides honest, to make sure that when they're doing a reconciliation bill that only needs a simple majority, they're not adding in things that would typically be legislation outside of that parameter that would be subject to being filibustered. Now, and stay with me, in this particular case, The parliamentarian ruled that the provision of kicking 1.4 million illegal immigrants off of Medicaid did not fall within the confines of a reconciliation bill. How, when deciding how much you want to spend on the Medicaid service, would be the literal definition of what's allowed in a reconciliation bill? I don't know. It seems more like a Democrat hack helping Democrats keep their hopeful future voter base on the American taxpayers' payroll. So, once the parliamentarian declares that this is not an item that falls within reconciliation, the order must now be subject to a 3/5 majority in order to pass. Well, there's only 52 or 53 Republicans in the Senate, so they obviously need a couple of Democrats to come defect in order to pass it. And now, surprisingly, a couple of them did, because the measure passed 56 to 44. Still not enough to hit the 60 threshold, but 3 or 4 Democrats did vote for the measure, while 44 did not, unsurprisingly. Now, people in MAGA always float what they call the nuclear option. This is when the Senate Majority Leader overrules the advice of the Senate parliamentarian. This means they could reject their ruling that this measure doesn't fall within the confines of reconciliation and move forward with a simple majority vote. But the reason it's called the nuclear option is both parties don't do it because they know that if they do it, the other side will do it. They believe that most legislation outside of spending and revenue should be somewhat bipartisan and be able to pass with 60% of the vote. But if you use the nuclear option and bypass that precedent, the fear is no party going forward will ever seek bipartisanship again. It will just be majority rule. Here's what Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune had to say about not using the nuclear option. He says, McDonough's rulings are crucial because Senate Republicans are seeking to use special budget reconciliation rules to avoid a Democrat filibuster and pass the bill on party lines. Those rules limit such bills to strictly fiscal-related matters, which, do we want to spend money on illegal immigrants receiving free government health care, seems like it falls directly in that, but whatever. It continues, while the parliamentarian serves only as an advisor to the Senate's presiding officer and can be overruled or fired, members generally heed her guidance out of a bipartisan desire to preserve the filibuster for most legislation and to otherwise observe the Senate's norms. And while it's just another unelected official really deciding what happens in our supposed democratic government, I'm not really mad at her for following, I guess, procedural precedent. I'm more mad at the Democrat senators that they didn't vote in lockstep with the Republicans for this. This is one of those issues that is so clear and cut. Illegal immigrants should not be receiving government welfare. And the fact that these Democrat senators, who were at one point at the beginning of the cycle of hypocrisy saying it's a Republican conspiracy theory that illegals receive welfare, they don't, are you stupid, dumb MAGA, now are deciding not to participate in a vote that would effectively disprove their argument. Because if it's not happening, then why not vote to kick these people off? It's the same thing that happened with the trans issue. At first it was minors aren't getting indoctrinated by their teachers. They're not receiving cross-sex sterilizing hormone therapy. They're not getting mutilated. And by the end of it, their position is you're a bigot if you don't want your teacher to trans your kids. Gender affirming care is a good thing that saves trans lives. And there's no way we'd pass legislation to block this thing from happening that at one point we said was never happening. Now, while Democrats are showing that they don't represent the American people, they represent illegal immigrants, let me show you what the complicity of their actions has caused. This next video absolutely blew my mind. It's an illegal immigrant who posted a TikTok publicly showing and bragging about how she got deported by ICE and returned to the US 2 days later with fake papers. These illegal immigrants have become so emboldened under Joe Biden's disastrous policies that they are bragging and documenting the process of sneaking back into the United States. They are spitting in our face and blatantly disrespecting our laws and procedures. And Democrats can't wrap their minds around why this is a bad thing. This isn't the downtrodden mother arriving at the border with her 4 children, escaping violence and poverty. This is some entitled foreign TikToker who thinks that they have a right to be in our country. The situation created under the Biden administration was untenable. There is a reason it has to be remedied so harshly. Democrats are so delusional and have so little understanding of how the world works. They don't understand why mass immigration is a bad thing. Hell, everybody who came into this country illegally could be a saint, and it would still be almost equally as bad for the country. They live in fairy tale world. They don't live in reality where there is a scarce supply of resources. A country is lucky if it has enough resources and infrastructure just to provide for its own domestic population, let alone 30 million illegal immigrants in the span of 4 years, on top of all of the ones who were here before that. When you add 40 million people who shouldn't be here to the housing market, what do you think happens to home prices? They shoot up. What do you think happens to wage growth when these people will take $5 an hour under the table? Wages go down. Americans get priced out of the market. What happens to our kids' schools when half the kids in the classroom can no longer speak English and the pupil to teacher ratio doubles? What do you think happens to our healthcare system when 30 million people come here and use our emergency room as regular care? And that would be if they were all perfect people. Now factor in millions of people coming from countries and cultures that have no respect for the rule of law and don't value human life. The reason people were so pissed off at Joe Biden is their tax dollars went to the federal government, and the federal government used their own money to give free everything to illegals and also price those same Americans out of the market. Now we've talked education, we've talked housing, we've talked food, we've talked shelter, we've talked medical care. But here's Trump revealing just how much we're spending on translation services.
The United States is now spending $78 billion a year on translation. Okay, think of that. $78 billion a year on translation and smaller numbers on special education programs for non-English speakers in our public schools. So $78 billion, I think that's not a mistake. I would say $1 million maybe, hundreds of thousands of dollars, $78 billion, Joe, on translators and non-English speaking work. Federal government, the Justice Department, it's more than twice the cost of maintaining the United States Justice Department, what we're spending on translation and other things to help.
So yeah, the true cost of this issue is monumental, and people want these illegals gone so badly because the issue is getting personal to everyone. More Americans are struggling now than ever. That's why the MAGA movement was so popular. And our sympathy to just throw money and help out the world is gone. We want our tax dollars to be spent on helping American citizens. And solving the illegal immigration problem is a real solution. It's not just a scapegoat. It's simple math. If you remove 30 million people from the housing market, rents and home prices go down, making things more affordable for everyone. If 30 million illegals leave the job market, those employers now have to hire Americans if they want to stay in business. And that leads to more people getting paid good wages and more technological innovation. Cheap slave wages stifles innovation. Businesses don't have to adjust their processes, create new technologies. They can pay a much lower wage than market rate to make their business models artificially function. So it's just plainly negative to every aspect of our life. And that's what makes what the Senate did so despicable. They don't care. And it also makes people like the socialist New York mayor candidate Zoran Mamdani so unlikable. Him saying one of his main policy agenda goals is to raise taxes on everybody to Trump-proof New York City. He's telling his citizens, I'm gonna take more of your money because I'm Trump deranged. He feels like illegal immigrants have a right to be in New York City, and the citizens of New York are going to pay for it. Listen to what Scott Jennings said about this nut job Mamdani.
It's literally part of his campaign.
Democrats in New York
I
already.
get it. I know,
but I'm saying Democrats in New York
already endorsed this because
Yeah,
this is
it's
the
been
policy.
passed.
Okay, so
Right.
just the clear position. So what you're saying is the position of the Democrats in New York is to interfere with the federal government when it comes to enforcing federal immigration
No,
law.
what the
that's
position,
what that's the existing
position is not to roll out the red carpet for ICE.
Why?
That is the position. It's
Why?
the
Why shouldn't
laws.
federal law be enforced in New York just like everywhere else?
The city of New York has the right as a sanctuary city to say we're not going to, in Rikers, allow ICE to set up a table, which they used to do, and walk people over to them. It's the
It is people like Zoran who have such an anti-American ideology, who openly hate the country, its values, what it was built on, and are openly racist and discriminatory towards the majority of the country, that are causing people to form the opinion that he should be denaturalized and sent back to Uganda. Because we are sick of foreigners coming to our country and then advocating for policies that would destroy it. We're fed up with the philosophy that we all are just supposed to accept our self-destruction because we owe it to the rest of the world. No, the current Democrat Party couldn't be more clear about what it stands for. You have Democrats in the Senate who believe that illegals should receive taxpayer-funded welfare, and you have the Zoran Mamdanis that are trying to implement communism, seize the means of production, discriminate against white people because they're all evil. The difference between the two parties could not be more clear. One party loves America and wants it to survive, and the other hates America and thinks it doesn't have a right to exist. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.